how's it going? How are you this week?
I'm going well. I've been sick for the last week, so you might hear that lingering of that cold that I've been having. But I feel like, I'm feeling back to myself. It's just waiting for the other areas of the body to catch up with me. How about you, Jen? How are you?
Yeah, it's funny because remember we talked about how everybody's been getting that sore throat, and for a while I was recovering it as well. And so actually, I was thinking we could talk about maybe about the body's medicine, since we seem to be sort of relating about that lately. And just, I actually read a post this morning that was really beautiful, actually, and I sent it to you. I don't know if you read it yet, but
Yeah, I
it
saw
was
that.
there's something to the effect that I believe she's sort of like a woman who heals using just the earth and maybe Ayurveda, and just she was saying when people were sick, sort of in her community, the first question the elders would ask would be, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop listening to stories or storytelling? And when did you stop just being in silence? And I just thought that was so beautiful. It really actually made me think of that kosha of joy, and then also just about well-being, and how it's all so interwoven. We're disconnected with just things that are really natural in life. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that topic, and I did get the post that you sent me. It was is beautiful. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up as to, oh, it's my physical body that's unwell and I need to go about it the physical way. And there's a lot of emphasis on the physical body when it comes to illness. And I think that's wonderful because sure, something is not feeling right in the physical body, and whatever we can do to address it, that would be great. But just like you're saying, is that everything is so interwoven that sometimes when we emphasize too much on one area, we forget that actually when it comes to health and well-being, or when we do succumb to illness, it's not just about something physical. And oftentimes it's to do with the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects as well. And in fact, oftentimes, just like you were saying, that when did you stop dancing? When did you stop? All of these different things that we don't um, think about as much when we get sick. But these are the things that kind of lead up. Like the physical body is sort of like the last thing that manifests, right? And so when we come to illness, sure, there could be a physical or an environmental factor that contributes to it, but especially when it comes to more of the chronic conditions,
Mhm.
um, it does make sense to ask, well, when did you stop doing things that bring you joy? How has your life changed? And those subtle emotional, mental, spiritual shifts that we've had and that we weren't paying attention to are now, speaking to us louder and louder and coming out and expressing itself in the physical form. So I think that it's beautiful that you brought this up because I think that there needs to be some awareness that of what are all the other things that make you you, and are we taking care of all of these different aspects and not just treating the symptoms that are showing up?
It's interesting that you say about chronic illness because you know how I have the autoimmune condition alopecia, and I've had it for more of my life than not, actually, since I was a teenager. And it's interesting because for the vast majority of us, I feels, and I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm just someone who's experienced it for a really long time, um, and know many people now as I co-facilitate a support group for it. But it seems like most of us, it's not like we were having a happy life and then suddenly, oh, we lost our hair. It wasn't like that. For I'd say the majority of us, it was in many facets of our life, maybe in relationships, romantic as well as familial, overloaded at work, maybe physical conditions, and just this overloading in so many different areas. And maybe either being disconnected, so kind of like just, hoping it goes away or something, until we finally lost our hair. And in my case, that was very real. Each time I had universalis, so many things collided at the same time. And I missed all the little cues of, not sleeping well, feeling irritated, or, not the same kind of depression, but, that sort of deep sort of sadness. And then all these, and even physical, I'd get rashes, or, different other manifestations. And then because I missed them all, or just, didn't want to listen, I ended up with my alopecia universalis. So yes, it is so interesting, when we're not listening and we're missing opportunities to sing and dance and story tell, things that might bring joy to life. Um, yeah, that opposite, right? There's ease and then dis-ease. And I feel like a lot of people with alopecia, at least, might have that dis-ease. And when we can find that again, maybe the ease will return. And I have to say, I feel very grateful for all the different practices of yoga and irest and meditation, because I do feel quite well, in all the different koshas. And yeah, I think the majority areas of my life, I'd say. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that certainly people are being more aware and open to the idea that there are different layers of ourselves that are so interwoven. I remember even when I was growing up, sort of mind body practices were kind of maybe just beginning, but there's still a lot of disbelief around how the body and mind are actually connected, and that um, in terms of understanding the body, there's a lot of sort of separation as to, oh, this is the body thing, and we treat it with body practices or medicine, and this is a mind thing, so we need to take care of the mind. And so it's really exciting to see some of the newer research that are showing that connection between mind body, which yoga has known for, thousands of years. But it's just really nice and interesting to see that the science is actually showing some of the things that we already know as yogis as we practice. And so this also, I think it's very exciting to help to, I guess, introduce yoga to people who may be a little bit skeptical, to actually see that there's actually a lot of science behind why, our stress and our emotions can actually have physical manifestations. And then also to tie in with some of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and beliefs that we have about how we need to show up in society and the pressures that we may be under, or whether the pressures that we put ourselves under to be a certain way. It's really interesting to see how even when we do recognize that we may be sick or ill, that the mentality is about pushing through for many people. And so, just listening to the radio, sometimes I hear these commercials about, pharmaceuticals and all these drugs that come out to help relieve you of symptoms. And I was just listening to it, and I was talking to my, excuse me, my sons about, if you have a cold, it's okay to have a cold. We don't need to get rid of the symptoms to push through. And so when I was sick this past week, that's exactly what I did. I needed to rest. And so my just really tuning in and respecting and honoring and taking care of the body, that's been, keeping us doing what we want to do. So when it's time to rest, in fact, the body also knows what it needs in that moment, right? It's trying to fight the virus, and it needs me to cooperate with it so that it can do its job. And so in me resting was not that I'm being lazy and that the body is weak. In fact, the body is switching on the mechanisms that make me tired so that I don't go around wasting energy on other things when it needs to focus on the immune system, right? And so I really just took last week as a beautiful way to honor what I needed and to rest. And I was so happy to have that time to actually not do anything, even though I love my job and I love teaching and I miss my students. it was a beautiful week for me to be sick and be sick, not trying to get rid of the sickness, and know that in me honoring the body, um, I'm I'm actually doing the best I can in taking care of myself. So yeah, so that was interesting.
That's such a perfect way. You make me think of how important it is to actually, put in self-care, as an important thing in our calendar. So similar to you, it was kind of pre-planning where I knew I was going to be busy with the yoga conference, and also working at the same time and lots of other events happening simultaneously, that I had purposely planned for Monday to be sort of my rest day where I might normally have taught or did something else. I purposely was planning ahead thinking, okay, I'm probably going to be really tired. It's been a full on, several days. And just to give, all the different layers of who I am and that make me a rest so that I don't get sick, and really just give my brain and my body and everything just a rest and a reset. So it's important, right? Like before, during, after, to just have that connection and that understanding and knowing so that we can just treat ourselves with compassion and gentleness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something that is really lacking. And for many of us, we feel like if we take this time to rest or we take a break, then I'm not being productive. I'm not as strong as I want people to perceive. I want to show up as a strong person, and therefore I need to always be on the go, or I would always need to be okay, and I'm never sick, and all of these things. But when we do that, we're actually not giving our best self to to the tasks at hand, and to be a functional member of your community. And in fact, when we do take that time to rest and take care of ourselves, we really show up in a much more powerful way. And so I think that it's really important for us to start to shift our perspective around what is actually productive, because just because you're awake and doing things, it doesn't mean you're productive. The amount of time we procrastinate when we're tired and unmotivated and feeling just not feeling well, not feeling creative. All of these things need us to really be in a place where um, where these things can show up for us, like creativity, intuition, um, focus, attention. All of these things are so dependent on our well-being emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Feels like there's some tips emerging. So are there any tips maybe related to just, tuning in so that we can find healing in a variety of ways, before, during, and after?
Yeah, I think that, what you were saying before, just tuning in and being aware of how your body reacts to certain events in your life, it already starts to give you some clues as to, oh, okay, what's good for me and what is too much for me and what can I handle in a week, let's say, and being really honest with yourself, and having that. It's a bit of a trial and error also to see what you can and cannot handle. But when you start paying attention to yourself, it gets a bit clearer and say, oh, last week I took on too much. What did I do last week? And then so that in the future, you might be able to plan a little bit better. So I think initially it is about getting to know yourself and just paying attention to your energy level, and the amount of things that you set for yourself in a week, and see whether that feels like a nice flow or whether it feels forceful. Are you exhausted by the end of the day or end of the week? So that's a good place to start. And then just prioritizing. And if it is too much, what can you cut out? And I know this is a really difficult one for a lot of people, because obviously they think that everything on their schedule is important, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it all. But that's the other thing, is really narrowing down on some of the things that you need to focus on and things that you think you need to focus on, but you really don't need to at this moment. And maybe we can do another episode on prioritizing and knowing what's how to find and focus what you need to do in your life. But I think that a lot of us overdo and find it really hard to let go of some of the things that you know um, that we take on responsibility for. But then I think maybe to kind of get around, well, not to get around that, but perhaps what might be helpful is that whatever you have on your list of to do, put yourself at the top of the list so that you're always taking care of yourself first as a priority. So what do you need to do to be most energized? For some of us, it might be consistent sleep. And so maybe that's what you'll prioritize is that I'll sleep, make sure I sleep well every night. Some of us might be, I need to get my movement in the day. So prioritizing that. Some people might be, I need my meditation, or I need to play. I need to just have an hour of play. And it could be on the beach, go for a swim or go for a hike or whatever it is. Or, whatever it is that's going to be really nourishing for your body and your soul, that should be at the top of your list. And then you have time for the other things. And I know that could be really difficult, but if I were to give, one tip or maybe a bit of a challenge yourself to put yourself first, try it out for a week or two and see what starts to shift. How about you, Jen?
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe just to add on to that, to ensure that you're putting, yourself at the top of the list in order to be able to do and look after all the other things that are important to you. Like even put it in your Google Calendar. I mean, I have self-care pop up, and I'd put that in ages ago when I first moved back to Canada. Just to remind myself to give myself some self-care. And it's funny because I haven't removed it. So it kind of is really sweet when I see it pop up. Even though I think, especially with all the yoga and the irest teachings we have, it's so interwoven to everyday life now and what our heartfelt purpose is that I feel very blessed for that. But definitely maybe start there, putting it, as a little alert. And maybe even, I forgot what book it was from, but, you set up sort of your day in preparation for that. So, I would put my workout clothing on my running shoes so that I see it. And then I know, oh yeah, I'm supposed to work out. So all this stuff is like right there already. And even like a cup of tea, like when I know I'm going to have an early day and a long day, I'll have my thermos, my cup of tea, my everything that I need to, or even my hot water, ginger, all of it ready. So it's easy. I could just pull it out of the fridge and then put it into my teacup and I have it first thing in the morning, even my straws with the cup. So just having everything made easy. So when you're alert and, not tired, set things up, set these little habits up so that they become very natural for you so that you can sort of rewire and reprogram yourself to find new ways that might serve you better in this sort of new way of reconnecting with yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jen.
So hopefully people will give these a go and they'll let us know how it goes with trying sort of these ways to be with dis-ease, when it pops up as a messenger, right? Reminding us that we need to find care for ourselves before, during, and after.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Jen.
Take care. See you, Dora.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.